What is up, basketball fans? Welcome to the NBA Outlet. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me, as always, Kory, Waldron, and regular guest on the show, Jac Manuell, for our emergency episode of David Fizdale getting fired. How are we doing, guys?
Nick's gonna Knicks.
Things have fizzed out.
Oh, there we go.
Nice. Well
back-to-back pods, back-to-back jokes from Kory. They were solid. Last show was solid.
I'm like solid, like 6.5, 7 right now.
Yeah.
I would take a 6.5, 7 any day of the week, mate. Don't worry about that. I'll take 6.5, 7 most of the time in my life.
Oh, God, Jack. But just a quick reminder, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and OTGBasketball.com. But, guys, obviously, it was hinted at all season long that David Fizdale was going to be fired. The Knicks are 4-18. They've been getting killed recently. The night before, they were blown out by 40 points. What was your initial reaction when you saw the news? Were you surprised at all?
Yeah, no. I wasn't surprised. It was just a matter of when, not if. It was, the biggest the worst kept secret going around. Obviously that performance against Denver was trash. The NBA, the official Twitter account for the Knicks, they haven't been tweeting out the scores for like the past 2 or 3 games. They're just like, next game on Sunday, next game on Friday, or whatever. I'm just like, dude, it's a sad state of affairs in New York, and I guess I always experience a little bit of schadenfreude in terms of reveling in their pain, being a Brooklyn Nets fan like you do sometimes as well, Nick. But in terms of a half galaxy brain thing, Fizdale is still getting to hang out with his hot wife. He's getting paid out for, another 3 years of his deal. And he'll probably get another job as an assistant, if not a head coach somewhere else. So good on you, Fizz.
Yeah, I was at work and this came through and I had to drop what I was doing to just dive into Twitter and what everybody was saying. I mean, we all saw this coming, right? We've been hearing the rumors for the last month or so. And again, it's surprising, but it's not surprising because this is the New York Knicks organization, and this is kind of just what they do. Is they hire coaches, they have unrealistic expectations for the roster that they put together, and then they look for a fall guy. And everyone in the media, all of us, we all know the fall guy is James Dolan. But the team's like, well, it can't be James, so it's the head coach. And David Fizdale was that guy. And as you mentioned, Jack, he's going home to a smoking hot wife. He's still going to be getting paid. So life is still going to be good at the Fizdale house. And actually, it might be better because now he doesn't have to worry about this circus that is the New York Knicks. Because once again, this roster wasn't going to win games. And if someone thought they were going to win games, I'm sorry.
If they thought they were going to win games, they should be fired too.
Exactly.
I think I will say I need to admit wrong. I thought when I think we were speaking with Vic doing some preseason pods now, I was a little bit higher on this team than a lot of other people thought. I am happy to eat my own words. I was wrong. I'm happy to admit when I am wrong. I'm
sure you're happy to admit you're wrong right now.
Well, yeah, I mean in that sort of sense of the imagination, but. I just thought they had NBA-ready guys. I thought, that the rotation obviously was a mess, but, you've got some vets on the roster, and I was just way wrong. And, again, Knicks going to Knicks. They're going to continue to Knicks until bigger, holistic changes are made from the top down, including the front office. Steve Mills and Scott Perry need to be next. Who's going to coach them next? Jason Kidd, that'd be hilarious. Mark Jackson, that would be even more hilarious. I don't know.
It helped the ESPN broadcast, and Mark Jackson got, the coaching job.
What about Doris? Or Doris?
Steve Mills, since he's been working the front office, the Knicks are 350 and 656. That is a real number via Kevin O'Connor. Another stat via Tommy Beer on Twitter. Knicks head coaches this century, 13. Knicks playoffs wins this century, 9. So it has been essentially extremely rough. And like you guys said, going to the season, I think they maybe could have been a little bit better. They've dealt with some injuries, but the combination of not only the roster fit on the court, but the chemistry of the team was never an ideal fit because you had a lot of young guys that needed development and then also a lot of vets that played the same position. You knew guys weren't going to get minutes. So just the whole situation going to the season, and then the idea that is Fizdale even the right coach for this team, everything was in a bad spot to start the year, and they didn't change the expectation on that. They expected good things, and they weren't going to get it. Fizdale kind of got dealt this hand.
I think sorry, Kory. I think in saying that, a lot of those things can be true, and Fizdale can still be seen as a bad coach in terms of
I
this
don't think he
team.
was a good coach this season. Like, I don't
He was
think
horrible. I spoke to you on occasions, Nick, after watching them play live when I was in New York, and I watched them against the Kings. They don't run anything, and I mean it's hard to run, sets when you've got 8 million power forwards and a couple of guards, and then whatever wings, and you don't have a heap of talent. The chemistry, you can't force a team to gel when you have such a mismatch of ill-fit players. But he wasn't a good coach. He deserved to get fired. But that doesn't mean other people deserve to get fired too. It may be in a different situation. I think if we're looking at Fizdale's coaching tenure overall, I thought he was a pretty good coach in Memphis. The chemistry issues that he had with one of the stars, Marc Gasol, led to his demise. He was a poor coach in New York because he didn't have a system. He didn't have an identity. And if you can't at least get your team to show effort, they maybe showed effort once, 3 times, probably the 2 games against Dallas, they won the KP sweepstakes. But outside of that, it has been a miserable season for the New York Knicks.
I mean, Fizdale obviously wasn't great. I think we can all agree. The rotations haven't been fantastic. The fact that he, like Kevin Knox, for example, like the fact he only plays like 19 to 20 minutes a game. Like, I understand you have a lot of veterans ahead of him, but even still, like certain guys just feel like they should have been given a bigger opportunity. Obviously, the expectations probably are the reason why we saw a lot of the vets getting the majority of those minutes. But we mentioned that one game where he benched RJ Barrett during the stretch a week after saying, I'm going to play him as many minutes as I want, because he wanted Wayne Ellington out there as a decoy. And like, it's stuff like that that just doesn't make any sense. Like,
he said a lot of dumb things as a head coach.
Right. And we're gonna have probably more bad interviews from the Knicks as the candidates or the interim head coaches. I mean, they didn't even have a guy set up, right? I mean, that's another.
Yeah, they just named Mike Miller, I believe.
Right. Yeah. And it's not to be confused with Mike Miller.
He's in the college, right? College coach as well. Yeah.
I mean, again, like I said, Fizdale was certainly to blame for part of this, but he wasn't given tools to do much better than this.
I think like you fire Fizdale and like, yeah, he did a bad job, but you have to fire everybody else. Like, everything is bad about this team. No coach that you bring in, no coach in the NBA is winning with this roster. Like, you give Greg Popovich this roster, and maybe they have one more win. We've kind of talked about the roster collection here. It's just not good. And they probably have one NBA point guard that's capable of running an offense in Elfrid Payton, who's been banged up a lot of the season. And then the minutes for the young guys have just been all over the place. There's no identity in terms of offense or defense, but there's also no identity in terms of the entire team. Like, are they trying to develop players? Are they trying to play vets and be competitive? What are they trying to do? And you never really got a good idea what that was David Fizdale. As much as that's on him, a lot of it's on the organization too.
Who do you guys think will be coach, and who do you want to be coach? Obviously, we sort of touched on it a little bit, but answer that. I guess if you might have the same answer to both of those questions.
Kory, you up?
I'll
go.
You want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah. I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the coach is going to be. You don't change the front office, because regardless, the roster sucks. The direction of the team sucks. They have this idea that they're going to get superstars. We've already seen the rumors about potentially trying to go after Giannis. Like, guys, your team is trash. And then all this talk about, oh, why didn't Kyrie and KD sign with the Knicks? Because they're 4-18 and the roster is bad. They're trying to do these quick fixes every 2 to 3 years instead of just dealing with it for a 4 to 5 year stretch and being like, all right, we're in a really good position. We could trade some of our assets, bring in a star, young players to develop. And this is a coach that's helped us build an identity. As bad as a job David Fizdale did, I mean, it's pretty hard to establish an identity in 2 years when your roster changed.
Yeah. Okay, so the head coaches, I think, are up for the job because, again, you can, like, does anyone really want to go to the Knicks? Like, that's another question. Like, does any coach see this as an opportunity that he wants to take? Because it could be like a guy like Jason Kidd. I don't think he would even look at this job because I don't think he can afford to go into another gig and have a bad coaching experience.
Fair call.
So like Mark Jackson, if you wanted to somehow bring in the New York tie, I think that's a possibility. I think Dave Yeager makes a lot of sense to a certain degree because the what he did in Sacramento a couple years ago.
There would be so much drama. It'd be awesome. It'd just be like the New York media would eat into that because Yeager hasn't got along with either front office he's been in Sacramento or Memphis. And then obviously knowing that the front office in New York is, I guess I would say stubborn is a good word to use here. That would be fun.
Yeah. And then like I guess like Tom Thibodeau and like both Van Gundy's should just be like names thrown out there, but I doubt anyone again wants to go to this situation. Like I have a hard time thinking a coach of any good NBA coach saying like, yeah, I want to go to New York and fix that.
They'd either have to be a friend of, Steve Mills or Scott Perry, or be like, hey, I need to have control or some say in the front office for it to happen, to bring in one of those more experienced big names in. Like they're not just going to come in because it's the Knicks. Like this whole situation is a disaster. And that's why I really think you have to fire the front office and you have to bring in a new GM or president, whatever it may be, and set a different tone. You have to do exactly what the Nets just did with Sean Marks and hope that you can find the right guy.
Yeah, I think that's hitting the nail on the head. I think obviously we all think that James Dolan needs to go. Maybe Jeff Bezos will want to buy an NBA team and just throw $80 billion at the Knicks. Obviously, that's an outlandish.
Didn't they just
number,
open a factory in New York, I believe, too?
I think so. So who knows? Get that Bezos money, James Dolan, at the end of the day. I think as long as Becky Hammond, I really don't want her to go into this situation. I want good things for a very likely first female head coach in NBA history. So just stay away from New York, Becky. You deserve better. Kick around in San Antonio. Maybe you and Tim Duncan have co-head coaching jobs. That'd be pretty fun. But yeah, it's going to be fun no matter what. I know Rich Kleiman tweeted out a photo of Mark Jackson. I would like Mark Jackson for the content and the lols and the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, we need more Doris Burke on ESPN and a lot less Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy. So yeah, who's your money on? Who do you think will get it?
I have no idea. Kory, you got any money guesses here?
No.
I could see Mark Jackson because they're like trying to bring back a New Yorker and build up that culture. I can tell you what would make the job a lot more attractive if they traded away essentially all the veterans, had a really young team. So going to next season, there was zero expectation other than develop and just play a better brand of basketball. Yeah. That would make the job more attractive.
Yeah, if you have cap space, draft picks, and then whatever the core looks like of RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, and like Frank Ntilikina, because I think Frank has played pretty well this year since getting more minutes. But like you have a core of those guys and assets, then the job becomes appealing. But like you said, Nick, with all of these vets and all of these older guys on the roster, that's what makes this roster so unappealing. If you strip that and at least you have some core, like young core pieces to work with, that's not something that I think that's something that coaches could be attracted to.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And now just talking a little bit about the roster, what players do you think they need to keep moving forward? Like obviously RJ Barrett being their first round pick this year, and he's looked really good, rookie of the year candidate. Mitchell Robinson showcased a lot of defensively. Frank's looked like he could probably be a backup point guard the rest of his career. But is Kevin Knox a guy you think they need to keep and build forward with? Or is that a guy they could look to move? Dennis Smith Jr.? What about some of these other guys? Even Alonzo Trier has gotten a lot of DNPs this season. Who are the other young guys in this team they should look to keep and build around?
Team Iggy Brazdauskas. I know that he got a massive cheer at that Sacramento game that I went to. I think the names you mentioned there, Nick, the top two are RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson still doesn't know how to not foul in the NBA, but he has tremendous talent. I know, Vic is a big fan of his at otdbasketball.com too, and he's going to be doing a piece about the Knicks firing and plenty of other Knicks content for you guys. For me, it's those two. I don't hate Kevin Knox, but hasn't been given the opportunity. I hope under a new head coach he is, so we can sort of after this season you can make an assessment and go, nah, Kevin Knox doesn't belong in this situation. See you later. Wish you well in whatever organization you decide to go to. I liked Alonzo Trier from them last season, but Elfrid Payton is a much more capable guard than him. I think Alonzo Trier is a bit more of a combo guard rather than a floor general. So I think the two names that you hit on the head there were RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Outside of that, I don't think that there are. And as much as I do like Frank Ntilikina, and I was a big advocate for the Nets to sort of try and get involved with a deal with him. He can be a defensive guard of sorts, and if he works on his three ball enough, I think he has a long career within the NBA. I just don't necessarily think it will be with the Knicks.
Yeah, I think obviously going forward, you guys both said it. It's RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Those are the two guys that I would deem close to untouchable. RJ Barrett for sure. And then the younger guys, Kevin Knox, I do agree. Jack, you mentioned it. I mentioned it before. I just don't think he's been given a real opportunity with 20 minutes per game. I think it's hard to get into a rhythm. Now, granted, you're still shooting 37% from the field, but 35% from three. I just want to see more of Kevin Knox. Frank Ntilikina probably at best a backup point guard. Dennis Smith Jr., we saw a flash when he got back after losing his stepmother, and he had a really good performance, and then he fell back into the not getting a lot of minutes category. I really don't think any of these guys, as of right now, you're dying to hold on to if you're the Knicks. If you can sweeten up a package to get someone else or get a bigger piece, then I think you're okay with losing those kind of guys. But I think I would put Kevin Knox in the category right now still with RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. I don't think I've seen enough to say I'm going to give up on that guy who's got great length.
And there's a lot of potential with Knox. I think it's more of a physical development thing.
Just 20 years old as well.
Yeah, he has the size, he has the length. It's not really just like the muscle and the body. He doesn't have that grown man strength yet, which we talk about a lot on this show. When he gets that, I think he can be a good player. I don't think he'll ever be an all-star, but you never know. RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, you guys hit it. Frank, I think, like Jack mentioned, I think he'll have a good career in the NBA, just might not be with the Knicks because I think the expectation is being a lottery pick, you're going to be a starter, you're going to be this plus type player where he's just better off as that bench defensive guy because his offense is so bad. And then Alonzo Trier, it's like, I think you might as well try to move him before his value gets lower because it just doesn't seem like he's a good fit with the team. And he's a little bit older than your young core anyways, so I think it might make sense to move on from him. But any other thoughts you guys have on the Knicks and this whole situation? Any expectation for the rest of the year?
I think we've all sort of hit the nail on the head. Unless wholesale changes are made within this team, it's just going to be a merry-go-round of mediocrity for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think my final thoughts are that this, to me, the firing of David Fizdale, it should push this team even farther into getting aggressive with trading some of these players out. So I think, for example, like Marcus Morris is the name in general. Like, I want to see him on a team that's playing for something. I think Bobby Portis could benefit a team that's playing for something. I think Wayne Ellington can benefit somebody who's playing for something. And there's no point in holding on to these guys. I think and I hope that this move initiate some more trade talks for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best bet for the team moving forward is getting some draft picks and really letting these young guys develop. So even if you keep this front office or you move forward with another one, they have a better idea of what's actually on the roster and what they need to keep and build around and what they need to sell off. But as always, a pleasure talking hoops with you guys. You can find the outlet on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, OTGbasketball.com, and YouTube.
Peace out. God, it was too slow.
I gave you even a second to do.